Hey there. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn today.
And YouTube.
Oh, yes, and YouTube.
Therapists, do you need an S-Corp? Do you need an LLC? Are you feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and not sure what's going on? Or maybe you have an LLC and you don't actually know why and it's not doing anything for you? We're going to have this conversation today. If you're excited, if you have questions about S-Corps, about LLCs, if you love them, if you hate them, if you're confused by them, will you post them? Let us know so we can start to have this conversation. We're going to be doing a whole hour-long training with one of an S-Corp expert, an LLC expert next week. But we want to start this conversation because we think it is so important, and it's an area where therapists often get lots of confusion, anxiety, and misinformation.
If you haven't been to our channel or our page before, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Miranda.
And we're with Zinni. We've been together since 2010 coaching therapists in private practice. And when people start their practice or they grow their practice, they move into a group practice or they start adding in other streams of income, we often get the question of, should I have an LLC? Should I switch to a S-Corp? What's the professional designation in a corporation? All of these things. And I think what's most important to understand is why this even exists in the US, why we have different kind of entity structures to support small business owners, and why it means something to you.
And I think also a big piece of what we like to educate therapists on is what are the questions you need to ask and whom should you be asking them to figure out if it makes sense for you. And spoiler alert, the place that you are not going to find the answers to your questions of what you should do for your unique business is not going to be on Instagram Live. It is not going to be on a Facebook group. There is nobody without looking at your particular finances and the legalities in your particular state that can tell you when and exactly how to figure out your designation for your unique business.
You should not be asking. Well, you can ask a coach, but they should be giving you a referral to a great accountant and an attorney. When you form an entity, you do it for two reasons. One is it protects your assets, your personal assets. It can protect, if you were to be sued, those kinds of things. It also is for tax strategy purposes. Now, each entity has some different benefits to it. So that's why it does matter. But then some states, if you are forming your business as a therapist under your professional license, some states require you to have a specific entity type, like California. If you are a therapist in California, it's an S-Corp. It's not an LLC.
Well, and it's specifically, it's a professional corporation that you can elect to tax as an S-Corp. So you can form a professional corporation before you ever have the S-Corp designation. Those can be two separate things. And it can be very complex. In fact, I was talking with our speaker for next week, and he was talking about how depending sometimes even in the city that you live in, if you are in New York State and you are in the city limits, may not make sense to be a corporation, but if you are outside of the city limits, it may make complete sense. So there's a lot of ambiguity there. There's a lot of specificity. I know the first time that I went, and actually Kelly and I went together. Remember the CPA that we talked to? I know this was like a decade ago. We were starting our business together. We're starting Zinni. And so we were talking about should we do this? What should we do in terms of filing a corporation? And as part of that conversation, we talked about our own individual cash pay practices. And I remember her saying, "Oh no, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a lot of paperwork. It doesn't make sense for most therapists." And then almost like she'd been talking about how it didn't make sense to do an S-Corp filing, or it didn't make sense to file as a corporation, just to stay as sole proprietor for a while. And then I said something and she goes, "Wait, I'm sorry, how much profit did you make last year?" And then went, oh, I'm so used to therapists doing this as a hobby and not actually making good income. I'm so sorry. No, it does make sense for you to file as a professional corporation. It does make sense for you to do the S-Corp designation. So state by state and city by city, it matters what designation you do and when you do it. So often we start with a sole proprietorship, and if you are like, every business starts as a sole proprietor, it's kind of expensive depending on what state you're in. Some states it's much cheaper. It could be like $500, but in other states it's thousands of dollars to file this corporation status, to start this corporation. And this is even like, you see the things on LegalZoom where they're like $99 and you can file an LLC, but they leave out, that's what they're charging you. That has nothing to do with what the actual state or city is charging you. And it can be completely unrelated to what you actually need. And often with LegalZoom, they will send you in a direction that it's not something that will hold up in court. So the idea, if it's going to protect you personally and protect your personal assets, it needs to be a legal entity. And if you choose the wrong one, then it's not doing what you thought it was doing.
And sometimes you may need to change your entity type. We used to be an S-Corp, and now we're an LLC, for example. And so it's when you have a business, there's lots of people on your team, right? Even when you're just starting out, you may have an accountant, you may have an attorney, you may have a business coach, you may have a bookkeeper. These kinds of people, they have their expertise in certain areas. And this is one of those areas that's an intersection between law, like tax law, and then financial planning. Because there's also some benefits to having an entity when it comes to your retirement, healthcare, if you have employees. There's just a lot to consider. So you want to lay a foundation for the kind of growth that you're going to have in your business, and to do it in a way that makes sense. We don't want you paying more taxes than you need to. So there is a timing aspect to that. So David Frank is coming to do a free training. We are bringing him in for all therapists to learn about this kind of process and what you need to know to make a really good decision.
And what I love about the way he talks about it is he really talks about the emotional side of it, the anxiety that comes up when we start to get into areas where we're like, I don't really understand this. This is new. This is different. And so he just has a wonderful presence about him in terms of talking this through and giving you the questions that you should be asking, and even talking through the process of, you're probably going to talk with a couple different people, and you're not going to just notice like the information they give you and maybe whether it's conflictual, but you're also going to notice the way they talk to you. You're going to notice how you feel when you're in the room with them. You're going to notice if one person helped you to feel like really safe and supported and answered your questions, treating you with respect. And you're going to notice if somebody else demeaned you, talked down to you, cut you off, and you left feeling like really gross and icky, right? And you're also going to notice your own stuff of like, ooh, this brought up a lot of anxiety. So maybe I need to meditate. Maybe I need to reward myself for having these conversations and talking it through.
So one of the reasons why we don't just talk about this is because we know that there are some nuances that is for experts. And what we really like about David is his alignment with our values as well. He's really service oriented. He has a passion for working with therapists and educating them and empowering them with knowledge, because when we are empowered with knowledge and we know how to keep our business doors open within the systems that we operate under and are trying to shift as well, that means more mental health care for our communities. It's better for our world. It's better for our field. And he is aligned with that mission. Yeah. So I'm excited for all of you to meet him.
Yes. So has this been helpful, this conversation so far? What are the questions that you are hoping that maybe we could answer right now, or that you hope will be answered at the training next week? Post them in the comments. We would love to hear from you and know, like, yes, this was helpful, or like, oh, this brought up a lot of anxiety. If just listening to this live gave you a lot of anxiety, maybe do some meditation around it. Maybe do some journaling. Maybe do some tapping. Maybe go for a walk and kind of explore that. This is your business. Remember, you're not just you're not just in private practice or
Just.
doing a private practice or have a part-time private practice. You are a business owner. When you see your first client, they hand you money, you're a business owner. And it is so important, and you deserve to be taken care of. You deserve to be protected. You deserve to be sustained. And this is just one of those aspects of your business in terms of doing all of those things for you.
So join us next week, Wednesday. If you can't make it, sign up anyway. We'll have the recording available for a short amount of time after the training. It's totally free. We're bringing David in, and this is
we're paying for it. We're footing the bill. You just come and hang out. It's paid for. It's taken care of. It's a good quality training. It's not a training that's there for a pitch or anything like that. It's literally just, we want to give back and give a great training and good information to this community.
And if there's any fear or anxiety around it, sometimes it's just because you don't know what you don't know. And that's what we're hoping to provide next week, is to give you information so the fear can be quelled, so you can make a good decision for yourself. So we'll see you next week.
See you
Thanks
next week,
for joining us here.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.